Welcome to RICO 12. I'm Justin B., your host and a child of an all-powerful and perfectly loving God and an addict living in the miracle of one day at a time recovery. RICO 12 is an open to all addictions and afflictions organization dedicated to exploring the common threads of the differing manifestations of alcoholism. We share tools and offer hope from those walking a similar path. We gather from diverse backgrounds, faiths, and locations to learn and support one another. Our speakers come from various fellowships and experiences, demonstrating the universal principles of recovery. RICO 12 is not allied or affiliated with any specific 12-step fellowship. This is RICO 12 speaker meeting number 375. Thank you for joining us live or on the recording later. Today's speaker is Mark C., a RICO 12 first-time speaker, and I'm super grateful and excited to hear from him today. His talk will be entitled, Finding Purpose Beyond the Addiction. And I look forward to hearing more about this message here in a few minutes. But first, a couple of quick announcements. RICO 12 offers a variety of recovery resources, including podcasts and social media communities. To explore more and learn more, visit RICO12.com. That's RECO12, like recovery 12-step, RICO 12. Or check the chat and show notes for links. This week, a couple of weeks ago, we launched a new podcast called RICO 12 Workshops. This is a platform where former and current RICO 12 speakers who have recorded workshops or other talks in other meetings, they can share those recordings with our RICO 12 audience and have them put up as a podcast, so it's out there to be listened to at any time. I'll put that link also in the chat and in the show notes of the podcast, or you can go to your platform of choice and just search RICO 12 Workshops, and it'll come up as a podcast. You can find it, follow it there, rate it, review it, whatever you want to do. Just enjoy the workshops that are coming through there. RICO 12 is self-supporting, and your contributions help us continue this message. Thank you to all our Spearhead donors, past and present. Especially this last week, we had a very generous anonymous donor drop us some money, and I'm just grateful to that person. Whoever you are out there, thank you. If you feel your higher power nudging you to make a contribution to RICO 12, the information on how to do that will be in the chat of the live meeting, the show notes of the podcast, or you can go to RICO12.com/support. Your support, both financially, but especially by word of mouth, truly makes a difference in helping us share these messages of hope and recovery. Speaking of hope, each week we receive light and inspiration from our speakers, and their experience brings hope, meaning, worth, and growth to us as listeners. Now, let's welcome today's speaker, Mark C. Here is a little bit about him, and then I'll turn the floor over to him. Mark C. is a minister, recovery coach, and the founder of Spiritual Sobriety, a movement helping people discover freedom from addiction through faith and purpose. After finding lasting sobriety himself, Mark has dedicated his life to showing others how to redirect the energy once consumed by addiction to uncovering their true calling. He is the author of Letters of Hope, Freedom from Addiction, and the creator of the Journey to Freedom online recovery course and workbook. These resources are used by individuals and recovery organizations alike. Mark's message is centered on identity, hope, and the transformative power of God's love to bring lasting change. Take it away, Mark. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Justin, for having me on today. And today's topic, as Justin stated, we'll be talking about finding purpose beyond addiction. Because for me, recovery was not just about leaving something behind. It wasn't so much about letting something go as it was about stepping into who I was always meant to be. So let me give you some background about my story. I had my issue was with alcohol, and I had an alcohol withdrawal seizure. I had kind of went on a bender one weekend, and then after that decided that, I'm not going to drink anymore. So I went cold turkey then. And then like a day later, I found myself in the hospital. I woke up in the hospital and didn't know how I got there, didn't know what had happened. The doctor explained it to me and, said that I had an alcohol withdrawal seizure. I didn't even know what that was or that it was even possible. And in that time, in that moment, I was in the hospital for 5 days. And then I had 5 or 6 subsequent seizures that two of them put me back in the hospital. And I guess the other ones were smaller ones that the doctor called post-acute withdrawal seizures. And but what happened to me while I was in the hospital, that first 5-day stint, I had an encounter. I had an encounter with the Lord, and basically what he shared with me was that if I continued to drink, I wasn't going to be able to live the life that he had planned and purposed for me. So it was either I was going to stop drinking and become what I was meant to be, or my life was going to be over. Alcohol was going to take me out. And it was just it was a really sobering moment. And I had other experiences, not with him, but with alcohol, to what I thought that would cause me to quit. I mean, I had been drinking on and off for over 20 years. And during that time, I had moments of sobriety that didn't last long. One time it lasted for a couple of years. And that was because I had a car accident. And really, that car accident should have taken me out, but it was the grace of God that it didn't. I mean, I crashed into a crane. I wasn't, I mean, one of those huge cranes that they use to put HVAC systems on top of skyscrapers. I was in New York. By profession, I'm a chef, and I was in New York, and it was after a long shift and everything. And I should have really went home, but I went out for drinks, and then I remember it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm driving down the street somewhere in Greenwich Village, and I reached over to like adjust the radio or something like that at the stoplight, and and then I looked up as the light turned green, and I'm slowly pulling off. And then out of nowhere, this woman, she was dressed all in black. She came out of nowhere, and I swerved to not hit her. And I really wasn't even going that fast. And right around the corner, because some of the streets down there are shaped funny, and right around the corner was a crane. The last thing I remember was I didn't even see the crane. The last thing I remember was hearing someone tell me that you've been in an accident, don't move. But what happened was the car went under the crane, and it took the roof off of the car. And I found out later in the hospital that they said when they found me that my seat was reclining. How that happened, I don't know, but I'm grateful because I literally walked away from that accident. I mean, I had a piece of glass stuck in my forehead and maybe some glass in but I didn't break anything or nothing. And like I said, really, that should have taken me out. And you would think that that would be enough to cause me to stop drinking, but it didn't. And that was more than 20 years ago. But this alcohol withdrawal seizure that had happened about 8 years ago, and I've been sober since then, and I'm grateful. But in that, let's just call it a coming to Jesus moment, I realized that I wanted to live the life that he had planned and purpose for me. And so I went into rehab. I did the 12 steps. I did all of those things. And I was starting to feel better about myself, but something happened when I was in the process of rehabilitation, of recovery. And that was, I wanted to understand more about how this had affected me and more about, why am I here? It's like, I didn't die when the car crash. The alcohol withdrawal seizure didn't take me out. So it's like, there's got to be a real reason. It can't be just, Mark, you're going to live the rest of your life. And it's just that you can't drink, you can't do this, you can't do that. And in counseling people, I often hear or get a real sense of the fear that I had then, which was that if I have to let go of this, then what is going to be my coping mechanism? How am I going to live my life if I don't have this to go to? And sometimes I think that fear is something that keeps people from moving forward. So for a while, I thought to myself that this is it. If I can't stop drinking, I thought this is all I'll ever be known for, that my mistakes, my failures, my addiction, the shame was loud. And it was telling me that this is who you are. But that hospital moment, that seizure was the breaking point, that I realized that if I kept living that way, there wouldn't be a future left to hope for. So, in going through the rehabilitation process, I was thinking to myself, what if I could personify all the elements of addiction? What if I could, have those internal conversations that I think that we all have about the things that we know we're supposed to be doing and things that we shouldn't be doing? What if I can get that outside of myself? And that's what led me to write the book, Letters of Hope, Freedom from Addiction. because I wanted to personify the elements of alcohol, of the addiction. And I'm going to read to you a quick letter, one of the letters, because it's a series of letters of some things that we may view as inanimate. So I asked myself, what would happen, or what would the alcohol say to me if the alcohol could talk? So here we go. This is a letter from Bottle and Booze. Hello, my dear companion. Are you back with me, seeking solace in my deceiving embrace? Have you thought about the intricate web you're about to enter? Now, it wouldn't be fair if I didn't warn you that any indulgence will push you to the edge of a cliff, and I, your trusted confidant, am more than willing to assist you in this endeavor. You see, I'm not just a mere drink, I am a cunning architect of ruin, expertly crafted.
Got questions about addiction, recovery, or just life in general? Let's noodle it out together. Grab your big book, a pen, a highlighter, and a notepad, and join Nikki M. and me, Justin B., on Rico 12 Noodle It Out with Nikki M. Each episode, we take real-life questions, ours, yours, and those from the recovery community, and dig deep into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to find real, practical solutions. So, if you're ready to do the work and apply the solution, tune in to Noodle It Out with Nikki M., streaming now on your favorite podcast platform.
For your demise with every sip. You think I offer you escape, but what I genuinely offer is a prison, a stronghold of dependency, where the bars are made of bottles and the key is lost in the sea of intoxication. As you lose yourself in my liquid embrace, I am slowly eroding the foundations of your life, your health. A fortress, once strong and resilient, is crumbling under my relentless assault. I infect your liver, I dull your heart, I cloud your brain, and all the while, you thank me for the temporary euphoria. And let's not forget the destruction that I bring to your relationships. I whisper in your ear, fueling arguments, breeding misunderstandings, and fostering neglect. I am the silent participant in every conflict and the unseen catalyst in every fallout. Under my influence, you sometimes hurt the ones you love without even realizing it. Your professional life, too, is not immune to my havoc. I steal your focus, dampen your ambition, and smudge your reputation. Day by day, I chip away at the career you've built, replacing opportunities with missed chances and potential with regret. But the most sinister part of my plan, I make you believe that you need me, that I am the only one who understands and can numb the pain and can fill the void. I make you think you're in control even as I tighten my grip around you. My ultimate triumph is when you can't imagine a life without me, even as I lead you toward a tragic end. So the truth of the matter is, every time you raise a glass, you're not simply toasting to your health or happiness. You're toasting to me, your greatest adversary, disguised as your dearest friend. Destructively yours, Bottle and Booze, Pill and Powder, and other nefarious foes. So it's funny, when I wrote that letter in the book, it was, I got to play the villain in that part, and I had personified some other elements of addiction. There's letters in there from my sober self to my addicted self, from my addicted self to my sober self, vice versa. And those conversations, I think, are conversations that we have in the throes of addiction, but we don't really acknowledge them. So it was very helpful for me to get that out on paper and to discuss that. So that was one of the things that came out of my my discovery, or my awakening, if you will, to the life that I was living. And in that, I found my purpose. Writing became a way to wrestle with the lies, to speak truth to my own darkness. And as I wrote, I began to see that addiction is not my identity. My mistakes weren't the whole story. There was a deeper call. And that discovery drew me into writing the course, Journey to Freedom, And that's a process that I walk others through. So I just want to share with you some of the pillars that are within that. And they're not just modules, they're milestones that form a pathway for discovering one of the most important things that I felt that I discovered in my walk and my journey to be sober was, why did I want to be sober? I had to understand that for myself. I mean, that was because to me, that really is the thing that anchors you in the hard moments. That's the thing that once you discover what that is, will keep you from falling back, will keep you from going back to those other things or other devices or ways in which you might seek to comfort yourself. Sometimes in counseling people, I've had one person say to me, well, actually a few people, when I asked that question, uh, why do you want to be sober? And it's like, well, that's a silly question. I want to be sober because I want to be healthy. I want to be here for my family. I want to do this and I want to do that. And then my question to them is, well, if that's the case, why aren't you sober? And the room gets quiet because that's not the real reason. And you really have to dig deep to find out what that reason is. And for me, that reason is tied to some things that happened in my childhood. My father passed when I was young. He died from cancer. And in that moment, in the moment when I was in the hospital, my youngest daughter, I have three daughters, and she was 6 years old at the time. She came to visit me during that 5 day stint. And she was happy. She was like, I didn't understand why. It's like, I'm in a hospital. Daddy almost died. Not that I wanted her to be sad, but her joy, the smile on her face and seeing me just lit me up. But it also brought me to tears when when they would leave and go home, my wife and the girls. And my why that I discovered in that situation was, and thinking about that and looking at the joy in her face, and that, her coming to visit me and seeing me and loving me and caring for me. She gave me this little locket that she made that had this little plastic thing that she cut out a picture. The locket was in the shape of a heart. And it had a picture that we had taken years ago in like Disneyland, and of just she and I, and she put it in that locket. And oh man, that thing broke me down. I still have it today. But I realized that my why later on, when I was thinking through this process, was that I didn't want her to experience life without me the way I experienced life without my father growing up. So, in putting that in perspective with addiction, with alcohol abuse, whatever the addiction is that I'm seeking to help someone with, I don't want another person to be taken out of this world, and then the people that love them not be able to share their lives with them and them share their life with them. I just think that it's, that's the passion that drives me. I don't want anyone to experience the pain that I experienced. Even though my father didn't die from any type of alcohol abuse, it was his absence and my inability to deal with that. That was the silent pain in the background that was just, quietly and then loudly destroying my life. So, and finding my purpose on the other side of addiction, I had to face the things that I was running from. I had to face the pain that I was experiencing, because, the truth of the matter is that when we move through healing, purpose starts to rise. And often purpose is hidden in the very places we once felt the most broken. And I look at it this way also, that I realized that I didn't need to be fixed. I needed to be found. I lost a proper relationship with myself, as well as the world around me, the people around me. Everything was skewed because I'm looking at it through, if you will, beer goggles or whatever the case may be, and nothing was clear. So for me, the purpose was clear when I decided to stop drinking. And it was, I had to turn my recovery into a message to tell people, you're more than an addiction. You're not beyond redemption. And there's a reason why you're still here. Now, let me be honest, because, purpose doesn't come easy. Shame whispers, you'll never be more than your past. Fear doesn't. Fear says you don't even try it because you'll fail again. But perfectionism says, or convinces us, we need to have it all together before we can help anyone else. But what I've learned is that you have to lean into that fear. You have to lean into, what you think is going to destroy you, because it's not. They say that 99% of the things that we imagine, the fears that we have, never actually happen. So it's like, why am I allowing this to take up rent in my head, take up space in my head, and not pay rent? Earlier when I was a kid, and this was something that happened to me, um, I think it was maybe a few years after my father passed on, and my mother took the family. We went to Disney World, and I was afraid of heights. And but I liked the roller coasters, but some of them kind of scared me. So we went to Disney World, and and I was determined. Before we went, I did all this research, back then, and I'm talking about the 70s somewhere. I'm probably telling on my age, but Google wasn't Google, so I couldn't look things up. So, but I found what I could about Space Mountain, the big roller coaster there, and I determined when I got there, I was going to ride this roller coaster. I was going to face my fear, and everything was going to be good. So we get there, and we get in line, we get strapped in, and the guy, he gives the thumbs up. You're supposed to give the thumbs up, and I'm sitting in the seat, and in that moment, I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, I don't want to do this. I'm afraid. I'm looking into this dark tunnel. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what's in there, and then he said that if anyone didn't want to go, then should raise your hand. And as I was about to raise my hand, he hit the button, and the thing took off. So I'm like, and it's going and it's going. And at first, I was afraid. But then I said, well, I'm in here. I think at the time I was about 12 years old. And I leaned into it. I got comfortable in that moment of fear. And I leaned into what I was afraid of. And an amazing thing happened. In that moment, I began to have fun because I realized that I was okay. I can do this. The other side of this is just going to be the exit at the end of the ride. And when I got off, I got up and I ran back around to the front. It was one of those strange moments to when, there wasn't a long line. And I rode that roller coaster 13 times in a row. And I was about to go for a 14th time, and my mother was sitting by the exit, and she grabbed me, and she said, "Okay, that's enough." And from that point on, I completely lost my fear of heights. I'm like a roller coaster. I love roller coasters. Roller coasters, going up high. One thing that I haven't done yet that I'm looking forward to doing one day is skydiving. But the point that I'm making with that is that I leaned into my fear. And that was as a child. So as an adult, and having been through the whole alcoholism thing, and been through recovery, and just maintaining my sobriety, I realized that I could do this because I did it before. And if I did it as a child, how much more should I know now as an adult, and not run from my fears and face the things that are in front of me? Because I realized that life's not happening to me, it's happening for me. And I like to believe that God is omnipotent, that he's everywhere. He's involved in everything. So I look at it this way. Either whatever I'm experiencing, either he allowed it or he caused it. And if that's the case, there's something in it for me. So what I ask him, whenever I'm in a situation that I don't enjoy, that I don't like, or that I'm not really having fun in, I'll ask him. It's like, what is it that you want me to learn from this situation? Not, why is this happening to me? Because that's a victim mentality. So I ask the question, what is it that you want me to learn from this situation? And, he shows me in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Somebody could come up to me, say something to me. But then I learn what it is that I need to learn from that situation, and I move on. So in my sobriety, in my finding purpose on the other side of addiction, I've learned to lean into life. And leaning into life allows us to enjoy life. I'm not avoiding anywhere. I'm not avoiding being somewhere. Someone asked me once, I was at a social event, and this was a couple of years ago, and people around me were drinking and enjoying themselves and everything. And this person knows me. They knew me when I was drinking, and they still know me after. And they said, "How does it feel?" for you to not to be around people and not be able to drink. And I laughed at first, and she said to me, why do you think that's funny? I said, well, one, I probably drank enough for all the people in this room. The other reason is because when I was drinking, I was trying to get somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. And now I realize that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, experiencing the life that I'm supposed to experience. So I'm not trying to use some artificial means to become something that I'm not. I'm not trying to get somewhere that I'm not supposed to be. I'm experiencing life. I think so many of us are just existing. We're just walking around somewhat on autopilot, waiting for the next thing to happen so we can react to it rather than respond. And living requires a response and not a reaction. I was talking to someone the other day, and this person works in the kitchen, and in the kitchen, we teach people to, if a knife is falling, to let it fall. Don't try and catch it because you can cut yourself. So you see something falling, the natural reaction is to try and grab it. That is a reaction. That's not a response. And you notice if you react to it, the possibility of injuring yourself goes way up. So, the response is to let it fall because now you're conscious of what's happening and you made a conscious decision to do something different. You thought about it. So, and that's one of the things that comes with, finding your purpose beyond addiction is learning to live with intention because with intention always comes disruption. It's just like you decide, I want to go to the gym, I want to work out, I want to get better. The first thing you're going to be hit with is pain and discomfort the next day after, but that's necessary. So that's the disruption. But that disruption is rebuilding the muscles so that you can become stronger and you can become better. So that is the purpose. That is the purpose behind your pain. And one of the things that I've learned as well is that God has a purpose for my pain. He wastes nothing. Everything that we experience is for a reason. It's kind of like, if you ask God for patience, he puts you in impatient situations. And those impatient situations are meant to develop the very thing that you asked him for. So that when you receive it, you earned it. You worked through it. Now it becomes a part of you and no one can take that away from you. If someone was simply to give it to you, then you might not value it as much. And so living with purpose is something that has become extremely important to me, but it is something that I view as my way of life. And it's not to say that I'm on 24/7. I'm out here, on a soapbox on a corner somewhere, telling everybody they need to stop drinking. Drinking alcohol is bad for me. It's not bad for everyone. There's some studies out there now that say otherwise, but that's above my pay grade to discuss that. So, but I know that it was one of those things that I can't do, and I'm just so grateful for the life that I get to live now. I'm grateful for the things that I get to do. I'm grateful for the opportunity that Justin provided for me to be able to share my story with you guys, and just to let you know that there is purpose beyond addiction. There are things that that you're meant to do. God has a plan for your life, and He expects you to be doing it. And I think one of the greatest journeys that we could be on is finding out what that purpose is. Because once you find out what that is, it will literally change your life in ways that I've seen it. It's amazing to see the light go on when I talk with people and about it, and they discover what that is. They just run off and want to go. There's an energy that comes with that's just amazing. But it takes a little bit to get to that. We have to look at our lives. We have to examine the choices that we've made, the choices that we're making, and ask the deep and hard questions. But I'm telling you, it's worth the journey, because after that, everything changes, and it all changes for the better. Tomorrow I'm going to be 59. I know I don't look it, but I'm grateful. I like to say, people ask me, I'm forever 35, but I should have I shouldn't even, real talk, I shouldn't even be here, given the things that I've done and the life that I've experienced. It is the grace of God that I get to be here to share things with you. And I am so grateful for all the things that have happened and all the things that I know that He has planned for me. So I would encourage everyone to dig deep. Don't look back. The enemy of your soul is the only one who likes to share your past with you, while God is the one who looks to show you your future and wants to walk that out with you. So don't give up. Keep pushing, and you'll get there. The life you're meant to live is beautiful. We just have to put in the work to make it to make it be what it's supposed to be. Everything that you need is already in there. Don't give up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Powerful, powerful share. Really appreciate it. And I've written down several questions. A reminder to our live audience, if you have questions for Mark, please type them in the chat. If you want to remain anonymous, either direct a message that question to me, or at the top of your question say anonymous, please. And I won't read your first name when I read the question. But I want to start here with purpose, Mark. One of the things you shared there is, when you find your purpose, that just provides direction. It makes everything different. My purpose was revealed to me several years back, and it really has. It's been a driving factor to me. It's my purpose, and I'll share that with you and the listening audience. I inspire people to see their own worth, and that's my purpose. But there are moments, days, weeks, even months where I lose that purpose, where it goes from being forefront in my mind to not even being an afterthought. And I find myself squandering in those times. How do you get back to that focus, that purpose, when you lose your way in that purpose?
That's a great question. And what I've learned is that motivation can only get you but so far. And it's persistence. It's the doing the work, even when you don't want to do the work. It's knowing that if I keep moving forward, even if today I only move forward an inch, that inch is tomorrow. That's an inch that I gained. That if I didn't do anything, I wouldn't have. So it's kind of like when you have a ball that's rolling in one direction, it's moving forward. In order for it to go backwards, it has to completely stop first. It can't change and go the other way just like that. It has to stop first. So and keeping myself moving forward and keeping focused on my purpose, even when I don't feel like it's top of mind for me that day, I don't want to do it. And trust me, I do have those days, so I can relate to what you're saying. I make myself do at least one thing that's going to move the ball forward, because that lets me know that I'm going to keep momentum going. And then tomorrow's another day. So, it's one day at a time.
Hey, Spearheads, if you're looking to dive deeper into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with people who live the solution, then you won't want to miss RICO 12 Big Book Roundtable. Join David G., Nikki M., and me, the moderator Justin B., 3 recovered addicts from multiple fellowships, as we break down the big book line by line. In each 30-minute episode, we share our experience, strength, and hope in a real, raw, and practical roundtable discussion. So, if you are ready to learn and apply what you learn, tune in to RICO 12 Big Book Roundtable on your favorite podcast platform. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Mark. I really appreciate it. I want to go back to the letter that you read from your book there, Letters of Hope. One of the lines that you read in there really just kicked me in the face as you said it. It was this: I am the silent participant in every conflict. Talk to me a little bit about how the bottle, how the pill, how the food, how the sex, how the whatever it is that is eating me becomes the silent participant in every conflict.
Because it becomes a silent participant in those conflicts, because it's always in the background. until you actually tap into it to alleviate whatever pain or avoid whatever pain that you're trying to avoid. So it's silently in the background waiting, like a tiger in the bush, waiting to pounce, as soon as you try to do something different. So it's that I got to go have this difficult conversation with someone. So I'm going to, before I do that, I'm going to go have a drink. It's that guy, that stops at happy hour on his way home and then gets home and gets into an argument with his wife, and it was fueled by the alcohol, rather than just, go home and face whatever it is that he needs to face. He brought in that silent partner in the room, and then it takes over. One of the things that I shared with someone before was that the sober me and the addicted me was never in the same place at the same time. That once I got drunk, that drunk Mark took over, and then the sober me had to clean up the mess the next day.
Yeah, I identify with that very closely. I I get it. You talked about brush with death. You talked about the love of your children, of your wife, of all of these people that are important in your life. And at some point, well, I'll just share my experience. For me, all of the love of for my wife, for my kids, my wanting to be devoted to my religion, all of these things, they weren't enough. At some point, something had to change
Mhm.
to make it enough. How do we? Is there a way to accelerate that rock bottom, as we often put it here in the 12-step rooms, so that we can get there before we burn our lives to the ground? What's your thoughts on that?
I do think there is a way to accelerate that. And one of the things that I have worked with other people on, it's three things. It's three simple questions. I mean, well, they're challenging questions, but and the first one is, I like to look at what's something that you've survived, something that you thought was going to take you out. Something that that you overcame. So find one thing like that. Write that down. Second thing is, write down something that you care about deeply. Just one thing, something that could be family, could be whatever, something that you care about deeply. And then the third thing is, in one small way, you can, and then in one small way, find a way that you can serve someone with that thing, whatever you've come up on that list, whatever it is that you've overcome, whatever it is that you felt deeply about. Find some way that you can serve someone else with that in that day. It becomes paramount to me to get out of our own head, and the focus can't be on myself. And it sounds strange when you think about it, because it's like, if I have an issue with alcohol, if I haven't hit rock bottom yet, they say that in order to change your thinking or to change your feeling, you can't just think. You can't use the same brain that got you into trouble to get you out. You have to do something different. You have to take action. So if I'm, and you have to take opposite action. So it's like, if I am having an issue with alcohol and my desire is to drink, I haven't hit rock bottom yet, I have to take a moment to do something different, do something for someone else. And then, once you do that something else for someone else, and you start to, you start with one small action and then another small action, and then that gets the ball rolling in the right direction. And I think what happens is we start to have these moments of clarity. And then these moments of clarity is an opportunity. And then you have a choice to make. It's like, in that opportunity, in that moment of clarity, am I going to, now I'm thinking about my life, I'm examining my life. Am I going to do something different, or am I going to fall back into whatever it was that was bringing me low before? And I think that type of thinking starts the pathway that I can do better, I can be better, I can do something different with my life.
Thank you for walking through that, Mark. That's beautiful and powerful. We have a question from an anonymous attendee here that just came in, and I want to read this to you, Mark. This person is early in recovery, in the first couple of days, and trying to get through withdrawals. That's where this person is right now. How do you do that when the body is demanding the substance and your mind is telling you to do it again? It tells you to start tomorrow. You start the program tomorrow, and you really want to stop because you know tomorrow never is different.
Mhm.
What do you do with these in this situation, Mark? What's your experience, strength, and hope on that?
Mine is, well, I definitely use prayer as a means in which to help myself. That connection with God is, to me, all powerful. I need that in my day to day life. But then also, again, you have to do something different because it's like, we tend to think that every thought that we have is our own, and that's not true. There are a lot of thoughts. If from a spiritual perspective, you've got God talking to you, and you've got the enemy of your soul talking to you, and then you have your own thoughts. But one of the greatest gifts that He has given us, that God has given us, is the ability to choose. So I like to step back for a moment and examine the thought. It's like, is this a thought coming from me? That little, we like to say, that devil on your shoulder that says that go ahead and have another drink. One more won't hurt. And the reality of it is that one more will absolutely hurt because it's going to lead you down that path that you're trying to avoid. Someone said to me once that I was at an event, and this was maybe I was in Miami. It was a couple of years ago, and people were having sake with some type of Japanese restaurant. And someone said, "Well, you can have a drink," and I'm like, "No, I'm not going to do that." And I could hear that little devil on my shoulder saying, "It's just rice water. You'll be okay. You can have another drink." And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to do that." And the thing about it is, and that was the most profound for me. And the thought that I had about that was that my biggest fear wasn't having a drink and then having a withdrawal seizure. My biggest fear was having a drink and nothing happened. Because if nothing happened, then that opened that door for me to think that, okay, I got this under control. I can do this. And now I'm opening myself up to a different conversation, and I don't want to do that. So in those early moments of recovery, to where you are going through withdrawal and you're having these thoughts that it's like, I want to go and have a drink because I want to alleviate the pain that I'm experiencing, I suggest, and what I tell is, get up and do something. Don't stay still and do nothing. You have to take action. You have to get up and do something different. Go out and do something that you've never done before, that you always wanted to do, that you were afraid of before. Challenge yourself in a way that you've never challenged yourself before. And trust me, trying to do that will overshadow that desire to drink or to use or something like that. But you have to take that first step.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And my experience with that, especially early in recovery, is that moment of decision is really short early in recovery, early in trying to get sober. I've got just a really short period of time to go, okay, do I really want to drink, use, or act out here? Or do I want to step back and serve somebody else? And if I'm honest with myself, I would say, yeah, I really want to act out here. I really want to drink. I really want to use, but I'm going to choose not to, just for today. Maybe tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'll make a different decision, but I'm going to pause and do something different, go out and help somebody. And what I found in my own experience is that tiny moment, that sliver of time that existed of choice when I was in active addiction, has now become several moments, maybe even several hours of, okay, let me think about this. Let me lean into the fear. Let me make a different decision, rather than that snap moment that I had early. And any other thoughts on that, Mark?
Yeah, it's like that snap moment. It becomes the adventure. That you were afraid of taking before. So, and that's what I mean also by doing something different. And it's like it's like that scene in the Matrix to where Neo's in the car, and before they take the thing out of him, and he opens the door, they look down that street, and it's like, and Trinity says to him, "You know where that road ends." You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you can go that way if you want to, but you're going to get the same result. And you already know what that is. So let's do something different. And I agree with you, that pause, that snap moment. And it literally is very short. And but it feels so powerful because that's what you're used to. But if you let that pass, it passes, it moves on.
Yeah, and you had the experience of having what was it called, an alcohol withdrawal seizure,
Yes.
which, that could be deadly. That
Yeah.
could be deadly. The withdrawals, those things could be deadly. Um, but I think that, well, for me, in my case, I have not yet died from saying no to to my drug of choice. I have not yet died to that, and I think that's for me, that's something that I say to myself sometimes. Well, I haven't died yet from not partaking, so I think I'll continue to not partake. You know, I want to go back a little bit to your book, and I loved what you said, or I loved how you said, I got to be the villain here a little bit. I got to write a letter from the perspective of my addicted self, of the bottle and the booze, of these things.
Mhm.
Talk to me a little bit about the helpfulness, the things that you found helpful about putting yourself in the shoes of the villain, of the bad guy, and seeing it from that perspective. How did that help you in your own recovery to say, you know what, I don't want to be the bad guy?
Mhm. Yeah, that was an awesome experience. I have to say, I shed many tears sometimes in discovering that I was playing in actuality in my own life. I was being the villain. So on the other side of recovery, being able to look back on that and personify that was to me that was one of the highlights of the book. Was getting to know that person because like I said before, the sober me and the drunk me were never really in the same place at the same time. One took over at different points in my life, at different points in my experience. So, but being sober and sitting and thinking about the things that, alcohol could do to me, how it was clouding my decisions, my judgment, and ruining my life and not allowing me to get to the places that I wanted to be. It is a worthwhile experience to sit and question yourself. In that way. And Jen, for lack of a better way of putting it, it's just I had fun being the villain in that moment because I knew that that's not the person I am anymore. And so, not being afraid of that person, I could be honest with myself, and out of that came some beautiful discoveries.
I agree completely with that, Mark. Oftentimes when I read, a novel, I read scripture, I watch a movie, whatever, the natural um tendency for me is to put myself in the shoes of the good guy, of the
Mhm.
hero, of the savior, of the whatever it may be in that situation. But I haven't found a whole lot of help in me putting myself in those shoes. I haven't found a lot of additional strength. But when I say, you know what, let me put myself in the shoes of the bad guy. Let me see if this is something where I have been or where I could be, and then I go, you know what? That is not who I want to be, but I see that I could be that. And so I am going to
Mhm.
make the conscious choice not to be that. Man, that has been such a powerful exercise in my own life and my own recovery. Do you have any other further thoughts on that before we move forward on this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is. It's a powerful, thing to do just to because it helped me to understand myself. It helped me to understand some of the underlying motivations behind the things that I was doing that I knew wasn't good for me, and the effects that they were having on my life that I was trying to ignore as the good guy.
Hey, Rico 12 Spearheads. If our recovery resources have helped you, please consider a donation. Your financial support, as well as your word of mouth support, keeps Rico 12 running and reaching the man who is still sick. Donate today at rico12.com/support or check the show notes for PayPal and Venmo links. Every contribution helps carry the message. Thanks for being a Rico 12 Spearhead. Yeah, I love that because if I put myself in the good guy's shoes, I ignore all of the effects that things are happening, and I think that everything I'm doing is bringing good into the world. And Man, I wish that was the case, but it is definitely not the case. So, good stuff. Thank you for bantering with me on that. That's a really powerful and important topic in my mind. Um, I want to ask you another question before we start wrapping up here on this. You said, and I hear this voice all the time. You will never, the voice in my head that says you will never be more than your past. Um, Talk to me about the transition from that voice in your head. You'll never be more to your past to um, the purpose or the for me the reality that my past has become my greatest asset. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Um, because to me, it's like your past that's the school that I was in. It's the place where I fell, where I fumbled, where I screwed up and everything. And because it's in the past, now I can look at that in the present and say to them and learn from it. I can pick it apart. I can it has power. We tend to run from our past and not want to be associated with it. And to me, in that perspective, the past has the power to hold you prisoner in the present. But when you look at your past and say like that happened, I did that. It's like when I talk to people now and they say, "Yeah, I remember you when you were at that party and you were, you were." I can laugh at some of the stupid things that I did back then, even some of the dangerous things that happened to me in those spaces. I can laugh at them now because I know that I'm no longer that person. So, the past becomes the teacher if you'll embrace it. It's like a porcupine. It looks cute, but if I hold it too tight, it's going to injure me. But I still need to acknowledge it and identify with it. And because I can learn from it. And so it's like using that as a school, as a means to help propel me forward because the future is in front of me. And it's whatever I shape it up to be. I have the power to do that if I don't hold on to the past.
Oh, this is really good. And before I ask you the final question here, Mark, I just want to offer. I feel to say this to the person who reached out earlier and asked that question about going through withdrawal and just being in that really white knuckle place of desperation. I'm glad you're here. Reach out to others. Be of service today to somebody. Turn your thoughts to being of service to somebody and get out there. And even if you feel like you're dying, make the decision today to stay where you're at and to help somebody else. And maybe that decision will be different tomorrow, but I don't think so. I think as you stack day on day, it's easier to make the decision. You know what? I'm going to stay clean today. Mark, do you have any final thoughts on that before we wrap that up?
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. We have to get out of our own head and focused on ourselves and what we're experiencing. We have to get out and do something different. And what greater thing to do than to help somebody else? And it doesn't even have to be helping somebody else that has an issue with any type of, it could just be helping somebody at the supermarket, helping somebody right where you're at. It's the simple acts that change, big things in our lives.
Yeah, I agree. Oftentimes when I'm in that place and I ask God, okay, what's the next right thing for me to do? Something stupid and simple comes to my mind. Hey, take out the trash. Do the dishes. Something that I'm like, well, that's lame. Well, but it's helpful and it gets me out of myself. It gets me out of the stinking thinking that I may be experiencing. All right. So as we wrap this up, Mark, do you have any final words of wisdom or anything else you'd like to share with us?
I just want to touch on what you just said because that happened to me the other day. I was doing some work with the program and everything, and I was at a place where I was kind of frustrated about a couple of things, and I prayed and I asked the Lord. I'm like, what can I do? And He told me to go and do yard work, and I didn't want to go and do yard work. I got a couple of wild rose bushes that have become unruly, but they needed to be cut, and so I went out and I fought with the rose bushes. I did something different. And when I went out and I did that, the next day I came back to my desk, and what I thought was a problem the day before had a simple solution that I couldn't reach in that moment. So I agree with you, and I would just encourage people to just, no matter no matter the amount of progress that you make in a day, just take another step. It is true, one day at a time. That step may be small, but tomorrow that step is a step that you took that moved you forward. Even if you just move forward an inch, you're an inch closer to getting to where you desire to be that you weren't before then.
Beautiful message. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. To those here in the live audience, I have posted links to the book and the program that Mark referred to here in the chat. It will also be in the show notes. If you would like to check out that book, check out that program, the links are there. Please check them out. Mark, I really appreciate you coming in and sharing your experience, strength, and hope. I feel that this meeting, this talk has been really powerful and helpful for me. I noticed that you were moving. Do you have something else you want to say before I start reading the closing stuff and get into the prayer?
Oh, no, you're good.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I'll go into the closing reading here. If any of you here have additional questions for Mark or would like to get in contact with him, you can email me at reco12pod@gmail.com, reco12pod@gmail.com. I'll get you connected with Mark. You can also connect with him through that website link that is there. If you haven't done so yet, please consider rating and reviewing this podcast and the other Reco 12 podcasts on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify. It's a powerful way to work step 12 and share recovery with others. And next Friday, everybody here and listening, I don't have a speaker lined up for next week. It's been a long time since I haven't had an official speaker in here. So if your higher power is just leaning in and saying, hey, you've got a message you need to share, reach out to me. We'll get you scheduled next week. I've got people scheduled out further than that, but this next week I don't have anybody. So jump in, let me know, shoot me an email, we'll get you set up. All right, let's close out with the prayer to calm my soul that you sent over, Mark, and launch us out with that prayer. I'm excited about this.
Okay. Heavenly Father, your word reminds me to be still and know that I am God. In the quiet of this moment, I ask you to calm the unrest in our souls. When cravings rise and fear press in, help us to pause, breathe, and remember your sovereignty. Teach us to trust that you are mightier than the struggles we face, and more loving than any comfort we've sought outside of your will. In our stillness, reveal your gentle presence. Let us feel your hand steadying us as we journey towards wholeness. Remind us that we are never alone. You stand with us, guiding us toward freedom and peace. Transform our restlessness into patient endurance, and let the knowledge of who you are become our firm foundation. We place our recovery in your hands, knowing that no pain or temptation escapes your watchful eye, and we thank you for being our refuge, our strength, and our ever-present help in times of trouble. So quiet our hearts, Lord, so we may trust your timing and lean in on your power and emerge renewed in your faithful love. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, amen. Thank you so much, Mark. And everybody, remember there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find God now. Keep coming back, and when you do, come all the way in, sit all the way down. Let's trudge this road of happy destiny together. Work it. You are worth it.
Standing still a moment, carving out this time, reflecting on the landscape of this life of mine. Peaks too high to conquer, streams too wide to cross, troughs too deep to walk through without incurring loss. Yet here I am, still standing tall, despite the rough terrain. One like me survived the storms and walked through wind and rain. Still standing, I will fight the good fight, still searching for glimmers of light, feet still on the ground. I can still be found, standing still.
I still can fly. I may not soar unfettered, I may not rise too high.
Record it in the book of life and bind it with a seal.